Hello guys and welcome to another week of daily puzzles. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. Our first puzzle is called Back Rank Blues, so let's see why their back rank is so blue. Now obviously what I see to start with is that we can give a check, which forces the king to move as their escape is also blocked by our knight. After which obviously our queen can give a check, and despite them being able to interpose in many different ways, we have counters to all of that. Let's say they interpose with their knight, we can simply take. Even if they at that point would interpose using their other knight, we indeed would not be able to take due to the cover from the bishop. But even if the knight was here, we would be able to use this bishop to take their pawn, giving the other check, and no matter what piece they interpose with, our bishop would be able to take and deliver checkmate eventually. Now obviously once this pawn would move in, this no longer could be giving checkmate, but at that point this knight already would have moved over, and this queen could be slide over there once more. So as you can see, there's a plethora of moves, but they all lead to checkmate. With the first puzzle done, let's move on to the second one. Our second puzzle is called Welcome to the Dark Squares, and as you can see, the king is currently on a white square. So let's look for how we can actually prevent the king from being on a white square and invite him to a black square. In order to do so, well, I see that this exit is completely locked off by our rook, and as such, I'll see that our queen can slide over here, preventing his other exit, and thus making it so he has to move over there. With this gone, the king is now on the dark squares, and at this point we have a beautiful combination between our bishop and knight. Namely being that once we move our knight over here, not only does it create a fork, it's also a discovered check, meaning that the king would be forced to move, but as we can all see, at that point the king would have nowhere left to go, and thus achieve checkmate. Two down, on to the third one. Our third puzzle is called Checkmate Vibes, and indeed, when I see this board, I do get checkmate vibes. However, sadly for us, the king is currently somewhat safe in his corner. So let's, in true Levi style, sacrifice the rook, which obviously forces the king out as he can't move over there due to our bishop, and their rook can't take because it was pinned by our queen. Now it would be ideal if we could simply slide our queen over here under cover from the bishop, delivering checkmate, but sadly for us they have their queen, which would simply take back. So instead we are going to do the second best move, which obviously is a check, which in this case would be the best move. Now that their king has been made to move over here, that means that the cover from our bishop once more becomes a valuable asset, and with the king now between our queen and their queen, we can actually move her over and deliver checkmate. Fourth puzzle, here we go. For our fourth puzzle, we have discovering Danny's birthday mate. So first of all, a happy birthday, Danny, and let's get right into it. What I see is that we can move this knight to the side and have a discovered check. So considering the title, I think that's the best move. Now with this double check behind us, what else do I see? Well, it is very tempting to push this pawn forward, giving the check using our bishop. Sadly though, this isn't a checkmate, as they could interpose using their knight or their queen. With two pieces being able to interpose, that still is pretty much a strong vestige that we can't entirely break into. So instead we are going to sacrifice the rook, because once they have taken using their rook, which was their only option, we can then use a smother mate by the pressure from our pawn with the additional pressure from our knight. There we go. On to the next one. Our fifth puzzle is bringing us right to the stables with 4 knights and 2 kings. Let's see how this apocalypse is going to end. So the title for this puzzle is called Jockeying for Positions, so let's prepare for a lot of knight movement. What I see first of all is that our knight over here is currently locking the king in position, combined with our own king, obviously, meaning that once we give a check, that means their king is forced in the corner. With the king now in the corner, we can start applying more pressure under the form of our king. Why are we using our king? Well, even if they at that point take this knight, we still have the locking capacity of our own king, meaning that the knight can come in to support. So with this going on, they obviously try some countering by creating some space, preventing our king from moving anywhere else without losing any pressure of their own. However, by doing so, they have opened up an attack from our other knights on their own, winning as a knight, keeping the king in space, and they do, in a final-ditch effort, open a counterattack, but it matters not, because this knight has discovered, our king has discovered, and thus our other knight can slide over with the checkmate, like so. Hopefully that was clear. On to the next one. For our second to last puzzle, we have Big's checkmate trick, and it is a nasty trick indeed. What trick am I referring to? Well, as you can see, their king seemingly is very protected by this pawn, since we can't take as they would take back, and if we move our rook over here, they would simply take using the pawn. But wait, they obviously can't do that, because the pawn is currently pinned to the king by our rook, meaning that we can safely move our rook over here under cover from our pawn, forcing the king to move to the side behind its pawn. Now, in true Levy style, once more this week, we are going to sacrifice the rook, which forces the king in the corner as his other exits are covered by our other rook, and then our pawn can move forward, locking out the exits, finally allowing our final rook with the final move, checkmate. On to the last puzzle of this week. Our final puzzle this week is called Squaring Off Against a Passed Pawn. Now, obviously, this is the passed pawn they are talking about, as it is the only pawn on the board, and we have a very complex endgame, as we have a bishop-rook endgame. Now, we can't simply say, let's sacrifice the rook and keep it here, do some fiddling around with our king until they are forced to move, because, well, at that point, we would completely lose, or rather draw, as it would most likely end up in a stalemate. So instead, we are going to apply some additional pressure on the pawn, forcing it forward, after which we are actually going to bring our bishop forward, as obviously, as we all know, a king-rook endgame is winnable, a king-bishop endgame is not. With our pieces now exchanged, they might have taken, but obviously they won't, as at that point we would take using our rook, and as I just mentioned, that's a win for us. Now, however, we are not able to take their queen, but we also don't need to, because the queen has taken a very important spot, being the only viable escape for their king. Once undercover from the bishop, our rook has moved over. So we are going to do exactly that for checkmate. That was the final puzzle for this week. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe if you aren't already, and see you next time. Bye.